Okay, when it comes to training on the bag, all right, doesn't matter whether it's for self-defense, traditional martial arts like karate, taekwondo, kung fu, etc., or for boxing, or any sports combat, kickboxing, Thai boxing, a lot. There's certain principles that you want to really be adopting to make sure that you get the most from your training. As a national boxing coach, it infuriates me when I see people working the bag and they're just hitting the bag. Now, if you're doing it just for fitness and just for a general workout, forget what I'm saying next, it doesn't matter. It doesn't apply to you because you're just doing it for fitness and a general workout, and it doesn't matter that you're just hitting the bag and you're not thinking about protecting yourself. That's fine. So you can forget, you can switch off if you want. However, if you're doing martial arts, self-defense, combat sports, this does apply to you. And if you're a coach, instructor, sensei, sifu, whatever, for any of those, this applies to you especially, because you should be making sure that your students, fighters, whatever, are doing this. When they approach the bag, they must approach the bag like it is an opponent. So if it's sports combat, they should be working their way in, moving, working their way in. If it's self-defense, you should be creating an opportunity and an angle, just like you would be with sports combat. If it's traditional martial arts, you've got to think of it as your kumite, your point sparring, whatever, and you've got to work your way in before you throw your technique. Then, when you're throwing your techniques, whatever they may be, you've got to be aware of where you are in relation to your imaginary opponent, the bag, whichever one you're using, or whichever type, and make sure that you're doing things like moving offline when you're throwing the techniques that you're throwing. You've got to check your footwork, your balance, your timing, your distance, your power, speed, everything. And if you're a coach, you must be checking that on your students. And if you're not coaching properly, you're merely letting them train. And there's a very big difference between just training somebody and coaching somebody, teaching somebody. So, you've only got so far through it. You've got to work your way in. You've got to be aware of everything whilst you're throwing. And then when you finish throwing, whatever it may be, you've got to work your way out, keeping yourself safe. So again, as a coach, instructor, sensei, you must be watching your fighters, students, and ensuring that they're keeping themselves safe as possible at all times. So they're working their way in, they're moving whilst they're hitting, and they're working their way out. Now, that's as a general rule, if you like, with bag work. The same rule applies with your shadows. The same rule applies with your paired up work. The same rule applies in your sparring, and the same rule applies in a fight, doesn't it? You've got to work your way in, do your work, trying to keep yourself as safe as possible and as covered as possible, and work your way out safely. Because if you don't, you're going to get hurt. And if it's a self-defense situation, you could be very badly hurt. Imagine if I've just thrown a punch at you and missed, and I just go, oh, well, that's missed, and just go like that, back off. You'll be on me faster than a fat kid on an all-you-can-eat buffet. And it's bang, 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 you're finished, aren't you? So you've got to make sure that you do protect yourself at all times, and that you're working on keeping yourself protected every single time you finish what you're doing on the bag. I don't care whether you're just doing a single jab or a single junzuki, or whatever it may be. You've got to think about defending yourself once you've finished that technique. It could be Mawashigeri Jodan, protect yourself. It could be a Shirigeri, protect yourself. Whatever it is, you've got to think where you are and what you're doing as soon as that technique, not only as it before, during, but after. And as a coach, you should be instilling that in your students, that every time they finish throwing something, they've got to do something to keep themselves protected before they get back on it. And work the way in, work the way out. It's very, very important that you do that, especially when it comes to self-defense. Especially when it comes to self-defense. And this is before you add in all the other stuff that we know, all the pressure point stuff, all the power generation, everything else. You've got to learn to be in the right place. Okay, so take your bag work very, very seriously. We call it heavy bag, heavy work. Heavy bag, heavy work. All right, catch you on the next one.